before we start. Right. Okay, so I've got recording going for the next session. So the next session is our dev team planning session, and this one is always a bit ad hoc. Actually wanted to start it off a little bit of an administrative announcement. I announced during Marco's talk earlier that Marco had been voted in by the dev team as a new dev team member. And in fact, there's one other person here this evening who's just been voted in as a new dev team member, and that is Michelle. So Michelle, congratulations. You were voted in as a dev team member and the maintainer of Blimp. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So, the planning session, as I mentioned, it's sort of a bit ad hoc each year. And I put out a link earlier to we used a Google Sheet last time when we all just sort of went in and hacked it simultaneously. And I'll put a copy of that now into the chat in case anyone, wanted to reference it. And that's it there. And for the people on the YouTube live stream, my apologies. I know it's going to be very difficult to click on that, but you can squint at it and try and type it all in, I guess, or I'll go and shove it on the other chat in case anyone wants to. You
can screen share it maybe too.
Yeah, that's on the chat there. So that's what we did last time, but there was also a suggestion earlier, a little bit of side discussion about whether we should be doing it on GitHub. The main advantage of like using a Google Sheet or a Google Doc is that lots of people can edit simultaneously. But the advantage of it being in GitHub is that, it actually provides us with a more permanent, project hosted way of storing this. So, Randy, do you got any opinions on which way we do it?
Not really, not much of a strong opinion. As long as we pick one.
Right. Okay. James, you're often the person who ends up doing the herding of cats to get us into some reasonable shape for this this part of the thing. Do you have a preferred approach?
Look, as per I guess the side discussions, the problem with doing it in the Google Doc is that people don't then refer back to it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of benefit in having it visible and hosted in Git, and also we can then link the work that flows out of it back to. So if we go back to the plan,
I'm happy to try it in the Google project, and so this shows us like project number 1. We have had earlier projects in the RGPilot world. This is
maybe share your screen, Rich.
I can indeed, yes. Just hang on a second, and I will share my screen. All right, are you seeing my screen there now? And because
like that, eh? I turned into a ghost man. It's reversed.
Oh, it's reversed.
No, sorry, my camera was reversed for a moment.
Right, okay. So here we are, RGPilot projects number 1. Now, who is familiar with this interface? You just sort of throw in a whole lot of to-dos in this column, or I haven't used this interface before.
So, sorry, James, you want to do it?
No, go, Randy.
So I was filling it in earlier, and
if you look at
it's a bit like our projects, right? For our releases and stuff, when we pile up the, all the commits and stuff. In fact, it's the same interface. So my thought was just that, for each section, like for example, like copter navigation, for example, we'd create a single card, and then we would stick, we'd list up all the issues for that section within a single card.
Right.
So that's the cards, I guess. Then you can see, so you click on that button to add a card.
Yep.
So if you've got like a new category, you push that little plus and add it in there.
Yep.
I think everything goes into this to-do column. It doesn't need to be though. Another idea would be, instead of just sort of split it by time, like, to-do or in progress, we could put the categories at the top here. So, we could have, copter navigation or plane or whatever as a different column. So that would be another way to keep the list of items in a single column, maybe make it more readable. So that might be a good idea.
Right. Okay. Now, the other thing we should do is, I think we should briefly look through what we had down from last year and which ones are still pending, and which ones we can sort of cross off from here. Quite a few. There were some duplicates. I noticed that bidirectional D-shot was in there twice. It was put against my name, and luckily Andy went and did that. Thank you, Andy. But there are some items on here that are still very much pending, like the FTCAN. We can support FTCAN devices, but we don't yet run them at high rate. And so that's obviously a major one. So that would go in the to-do. Would that be right? So we'd add a,
Yep.
Everyone's still there. So we basically add a FTCAN support, 2 forms of FTCAN support, one using v0.9 let's see, message format with 64 byte frames and 5 megabit CAN rate, one using V1 support. So is that a reasonable summary?
I guess, I think, you don't need to be too detailed, because you can also link in an issue. So
Right.
if you've already got an issue, you can just link it. So, you can make it like FTCAN improvements or something like that, or whatever. I mean,
we don't actually have that as an issue at the moment. It's just really been Sid and I having a bit of a discussion. We haven't really formalized exactly the approach we're going to take, but that was a rough summary of what Sid and I have discussed.
the other thing I would add into each card is just who's responsible. So it's a bit like our GSOC projects or something, everybody's got an opinion, of course, on what they'd like to get done, and that's totally cool. And we want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
What's key, I think we're only gonna put things on the project list if the developers actually step forward and says, this is what I'm planning to do for the next year.
Right. Okay. And it seems to be really done by.
Yeah. I'd put it in brackets, maybe. Yeah, exactly.
Up the top here, like
Either way,
that seems to be the approach.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I might bring some of the other ones across that. A lot of the items actually, I was pleased to see that this last one, most of the items that have my name against them last year, we've actually done. Not all, but most of them, I think.
So I think maybe each developer should, maybe use last year's as a reference if that's useful to them. Also, a lot of people, of course, in their talks, right at the last page of their talk, they had a list of things that they're planning to do in the future. So that's another good reference. But yeah, I think each dev should basically go in there and create cards for the projects they plan to do over the next year.
May I do a suggestion?
Sorry, what was that?
May I do a suggestion?
Oh, yes, of course. Anyone can make a suggestion. This is a very open.
Okay. This is a Kanban, yes. Just a single column to-do list. Maybe it goes be too big with something that someone will do for sure, and something is just is a desire without owner. For an example, last year I tried to put my name in the new website and the translation as well, and I did none of those. Okay, but there are some things that maybe is just a backlog without an owner. And everything inside the same to-do list, maybe the to-do list will be very, very big.
I think
maybe another.
Yeah, sorry, I totally agree. And I also think that you shouldn't feel too much pressure. We put things on the list sort of to give people an idea of what's going to happen over the next year, so that it helps them collaborate, look for points of collaboration. The point is not really so much to put pressure on that person to get this thing done or that thing done. We all have enough pressure anyway, so that's not the goal. But yeah, so I think, put things on there that you'd like to do, but there's no shame or foul if you don't get it done. It's more just to promote collaboration. But I also totally agree though about your point that one list, one column is too much. So I think we should add columns for different sections.
Yeah, so last year we had hardware and OS support, we had scripting, we had EKF planes, we had different categories, and they should be columns, I guess, by
I wasn't meaning too many columns like that. I meaning maybe 2 columns splitting what the to-do list is really been doing, or someone already asked it to do or gave it its name, and a backlog list maybe with something that we desire but we do not have an owner. For an example, Trich, we spoke some moment last year regarding move some building logs from the Autotest server to the Wix server, maybe. Do you remember? I could not help on that, but maybe it's a column with things that we wish, but we don't have someone to help yet.
Mm-hmm.
Would be easier for someone new get something to do, because a huge single to-do list maybe it's kind of confused to organize. It's just an idea. It's not idea to have so many columns. Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Create a bunch
I
of
used
columns
to see
there.
this. Sorry, Randy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. Sorry, I just wanted to say I added a bunch of columns as you can sort of see. One for copter, plane, rover, systems. It's getting wide now instead of tall, but
Can I move things between columns?
Yeah, just drag them.
I can just drag them, can't I?
A project for each vehicle, each with columns in.
So I'll just go and make this. I'll try to rearrange my screen.
So earlier today, I created 3 issues and tagged them so that it appear here. If you have a look, you see the plus add cards, 3 new in the top right-hand corner.
All right, okay.
So if you click on that, you should be able to drag them down into the relevant.
I'm just adding system ones across here. That's probably a system 1 FD can. Okay, now these ones here, these 3 new cards. Feel free to get in here and edit, Peter, too. Simulated SPI sensors, great. So I add that in system level. CIDL level parameters to wiki elsewhere. So this is, do we have a docs column? Nope, I think we add column documentation.
Do we want to add PRs, I guess, the PR into these columns, or are we just adding text of what things
link to PRs are a good thing.
Okay.
And I'm just putting these across. Yep. In the short term, I'm just going to be focused on the plane 4.1 stuff, but it's good to have this sort of structure around other things.
maybe Bill, maybe I'll put copter and trad heli together here. Doesn't have to be the single column.
So as I said, I think if we're trying to be Kanban, we ought to have a project per vehicle, and then each vehicle would then have its own like to do, in progress, needs review, done sort of thing. If we were sticking to Kanban, that's the Kanban way to do it.
I have no idea what Kanban is. Never heard of it.
Let's not try to be too fucky too soon. I think we get all the ideas in here and then we can play around and clean up the formatting afterwards. Because once they're in here in the cards, then we can move the cards around at will.
Okay.
I think the
per
purpose.
vehicle is not a good idea, Peter, because you have things that are common to vehicles. So then you should have a common one.
Yeah, so you would add a common project.
Yeah. I don't think this allows you to create links between boards.
Yeah, I've already bumped into that with this. Like, I guess you have an EKF column, or maybe that's a system column. I'm not sure. Like, I got this copter rover object avoidance section for Reshab and anybody else. And it's not sure whether to put that under copter or rover. You're putting everything in a to-do systems, eh? Isn't everything to-do?
Yeah, Randy, I think you and I were both adding columns at the same time. So there's a little bit of duplication that just happened in the ether.
Okay, I'll get rid of this one here. This I think everything's to-do, so I don't think we need to have separate to-do from non-to-do.
Right, I'm just having a look now at the other stuff off the previous roadmap.
And Randy, I added a heli, but we can go combined. I'm not sure how you want to do that. So
Either's fine.
yeah, I'm okay with either.
I would go for separate because heli has different requirements than multi-rotor.
Yeah, cool. I got rid of the copter. Sorry, I got rid of the heli from the copter.
Okay, great. Yeah, I already added a heli in there.
So where would the obstacle avoidance stuff with copter and rover go?
Hey, Reshab. So I've got this one section. Oops, of course you can't see my cursor, but you see how even on Tridge's screen there, just below projects, there's the copter column.
Right.
And I've just got one card there for copter rover object avoidance.
Right.
And I've just got one item in there. So if you want to.
Okay, so I just added number 2 there and go on. Yeah, makes sense.
Randy, this object avoidance should go to systems because it is common between vehicles.
Yeah, I was wondering what to do there.
I don't think it's bad under. I think the development is likely to happen within Copter, and then the rest of us just going to benefit from it. So I think it's going to be a Copter-oriented development, even if it is available in others.
Yeah, that's where like 80% of the work is.
Yeah, it's like S-curves is plane and Copter in principle, but in practice it's Copter.
Yeah, those are going to systems, not specific to vehicle.
How do I combine these?
We're doomed. We are starting doing Kanbans. Now we just are missing the stand-up meetings because everybody is sitting down. We need to do stand-up meetings.
Matt looked like maybe he was standing up during his presentation. Is that a standing guest you got there, Matt?
Yeah.
Cool.
I had to just go and look up what a Kanban is.
It's a rabbit hole, Rich. It's a
Let me know what you
big
find.
rabbit hole.
It's
I'm gonna
an
stay right here.
Atlassian thing. Yeah, I immediately dislike it if it's got Atlassian in it.
No. It's a general project
Well,
management.
the first hit on Google is Atlassian, so it must be bad.
What
like
don't you like about
cat or something?
Atlassian?
I'm sorry?
Did they kick your dog or something?
Oh no, it's just every time I've gone to use the Atlassian tools, I've just found them utterly befuddling. I think it's because there isn't an Emacs mode for it, or so, that's probably the problem. I've just never got into the swing of that set of tools.
Kanban is actually a Japanese word. It means like a signpost.
Oh, okay.
So all this stuff comes. It's like it's agile software development, right? It comes from manufacturing originally, and then it was adapted for software development.
Yeah.
I don't think we necessarily need to use it as a Kanban. It's just a way to collect what jobs we want to do, right?
Yeah. Looks like Leonard's filled in the copter control section.
Yeah, and I'm trying to reorganize the stuff now so I can actually start preparing some PRs now, everything else.
I'm pretty happy with this list, actually. I'm embarrassed that I haven't done the high-speed USB support yet. I promised CUAV that I would do that more than a year ago, a year and a half ago. And I've got the hardware, so I've really got no excuse. But yeah, just got to get in there and implement it.
I wonder if you should move Andy Piper's generic ESC not support maybe over into systems.
Should we add a big one of an ArduPilot ESC?
Ooh, that sounds good. Systems column is huge.
We should also consider some of these be tagged as good first issue, because while they're important to us, they might be the sort of thing that a new user could do.
So you're breaking up a little bit there, Peter. I couldn't hear that very clearly.
Peter, we're trying to put things in that the developers are committed to doing. So the issues listed
It's
in
true.
the issues.
Although Pridge, did you we've moved across to EKF3 for plane on master? Are we still on EKF? Yeah.
No, we are. All vehicles default
All
to
vehicles are moved
EK3 on
across.
master.
So if there are any features that are needed at the moment, they're obviously not ones covered by auto test, but there may be still some niche EKF2 features, which are, or behaviors is probably a better description, that will catch us out when
people have been flying it actually because it's been the default for small fixed wing aircraft for ages, because all the 1 meg boards switched to EK3 only, you know, like a long time ago. And so people have been flying it for ages. There have been issues. I mean, you know about some of the issues that Henry's hit and others. And the overwhelming feature we need is robustness and confidence in it, in all the weird environments that people have, you know, when they've got rotten compasses and bad GPSs and, you know, or the other way around, you know, with all those issues we've had with RTK and the variances collapsing, those sort of things. And I think you've been chasing those down really well.
I've been chasing them down. So I think that one, we're so close to being able to turn off VKF2. I mean,
that's right. That's right. It would be, we'll probably leave it there for quite a while on the 2 meg boards, but we'll have it in reserve to basically, there's another 100K of flash, you know, when we finally decide to pull the plug. But there's...
well, we can't really remove that until we get another estimator in. So, Paul, VKF4?
Yeah. You want another estimator? Oh, crikey.
We might end up with an EQF coming in.
Well, that'd be really nice to do that. I'm going to have to ping Rob.
Well, they've got a student working on that, of integrating that into ArduPilot this year, Angela, working with Peter. And I've been helping her with using replay logs to feed the EQF. But it's a longer term project because they're not initially trying to do all of the little edge cases. the different sensor timings and things, for example, they're just ignoring to start with. And obviously that has, you've got to take into account the delayed fusion. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that develops.
Randy, just a comment on that object avoidance card that you added. Usually it's easier to have one card per item. So you have one card for loiter, one card for usable multiple depth camera, so not to aggregate so many to-dos.
Yeah, I thought about that, but then I thought, we're just going to end up with, this sort of, I thought this might help the grouping. And, if you just have too many sort of individual elements, they sort of, you can't see that they're all part of like the same, project.
Yeah, but it makes it very hard then to manage, because there are points that might move forward faster than others, so you have the cards staying there for too long. So it's easier to do that.
We can put
just a comment from someone that has been fighting against Kanban boards for a long time.
I was thinking that instead of actually using numbers, we could use these little checkboxes, maybe, especially once, like, everything right now is new and hasn't been done yet, so it's maybe too early. But
some of them have been.
Checkboxes.
There are pending PRs from some of the system ones.
Yes, but they haven't been done yet, have they?
They haven't been merged. I could go and merge it now and prove you wrong.
Well, okay, then we can add a checkbox. So that's all I'm thinking, is that we could change some of the number of checkboxes.
Randy, do you have all of the external app support you require at the moment for Copter and Rover?
Yes. Yeah. So I was looking at the to-do list for 2021 or 2020, I guess 2020, and I think we cleared off the.
Yeah, because I was thinking that what I want to focus on now is the sorry, family member that slams doors loudly. What I wanted to focus on now was just really starting to look at making sure we've got improve the robustness.
Yeah.
And also the other item was we're going to get a greater sensors coming on board in the next 12 months or so. That's really an order of magnitude.
Sorry, order of magnitude more accurate? You mean, did we lose Paul?
Sorry,
Paul.
Sorry. So we've got sensors coming on board that are an order of magnitude better, like the ATIS, but even the latest generation of ICM IMUs, and particularly with the temperature calibration. And we haven't revisited the base tuning of the EKF for years. So probably be a good task to put in. So I might put that in.
Cool. Maybe we need an EKF section. I've actually got this EKF GPS and non-GPS improvements. So if we had an EKF category, we'd.
Yeah.
I'd actually like the defaults for the EKF to automatically change based on it querying the AP inertial sensor library. First of all, asking the library, have you been temperature calibrated? Because the library knows whether it's temperature calibrated, and B, for this particular sensor type, what the expected range of sort of drift and noise and things is. And then it automatically sets some default values. I think that would be a big win. So people on the really high quality boards get an immediate benefit without having to retune it themselves.
Yeah, I think it's mainly the bias, how much we allow for bias swing and rate of change of biases.
Mm-hmm.
So should I add another section just for EKF?
I've added an EKF column here. Maybe we could do it like this. Sorry, just move systems to the front there. I don't know. It's the biggest one.
Oh, just add a column that is polls column.
I want to be there too.
Related to poll.
I want to be there too.
Actually, with the sensor selection stuff, Randy got the bit between his teeth, and he was really getting into it.
Oh yeah,
it was a lot of fun. It was a huge amount of fun. It was difficult, but not Not so difficult that I couldn't actually do it.
Yeah, and he cleaned up some of the code in the process, which was good.
Oh, yeah.
And
Really nice
and also
restructuring.
did lots of testing, which was even better.
Yeah.
That was a great project.
Michelle, do you need a blimp column? No, we lost her off the call.
Say again.
We do, right? Blimp.
Well, if you want a blimp column, we can add it.
Yeah, put blimp.
Yeah, it's kind of early in the planning now. Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that
no
one
pressure.
entry, do everything.
Implement blimp. That'd be a great item.
Already implemented, right? Flies.
Yeah, but I mean,
swimming around.
Yeah, navigation and things, and also getting a release out.
Yeah. Speaking of which, actually, Tracker, right? Is Tracker going up there?
Yeah,
we
we
can
need
put a general
4.1 for Tracker.
We could have just an other column if we wanted for some of the smaller.
Yep. Well,
just to limit the number of columns. That's all I'm thinking.
Some of these sort of administrative things, are we going to bite the bullet this next year and rename Arducopter to Copter and Arduplane to Plane?
I'm quite happy to do that if
sounds
people would like me to.
There was a bit of pain in that, if you remember, with doing when we did Rover.
But I kept a document to track all of those pain points.
Oh, okay.
So...
Yeah. I mean, I forgot there was a few ancillary things that were painful. I think probably the biggest burden was on Henry, I think, with documentation. But there were a few others as well. There were some surprising ones that affected Mission Planner and
issue 14,091. If you can think of anything that isn't on it, then you should probably add it. I'll drop that link into conference chat.
Well, we could, stick it in here under a general one or under each vehicle.
I've just created it. I mean, it could be. I don't know if it's one. If we do it individual vehicle by vehicle, or if it's just one project that we do for all the vehicles at once.
So, what was the PR number, Peter?
Issue number 14,091, 14091.
14091. Okay, I will reference it, and then I can go and. It didn't link it. Damn it! I was hoping that the hash syntax would work, but I'll go and.
We have to name the project. So rdupilot/rdupilot, then number.
We're on the RGPilot project, right? So it should be automatic.
You're up in the
organization RGPilot.
It just actually appeared on the right-hand side of your screen, Tridge, under Add Cards. I can see it right there.
Okay, well, yeah, with my desktop screen sharing, I can actually, I can't see as much of my screen as you guys can.
Down, I'll just navigate your cursor for you.
Yeah, that's right. It's you might need to. All right.
You just mouse over it. Actually, it's just a little bit further up.
A little bit further up.
That one.
Yes. Okay. So I can sort of. Yeah, okay. Well.
Whatever.
Copy link address. Edit note. So I can move this one back to where?
System level.
Just delete it.
I guess. Just delete it, I guess.
But that's definitely like a three, at least 3 months after 4.1 is out the door. For
there's no massive rush. It's just a nice, neat thing. The other one related to that is rename RGPilot Mega.xml to RGPilot.xml. Although I was thinking we might add the ability in the PyMavLink generator for an alias, because otherwise a lot of external projects depend on
you can just inherit. You just inherit the other one.
You can inherit, but I was thinking more like an alias. But yes, it could just be an inheritance.
Something we should discuss is moving AP Perif to be a top-level vehicle.
Yeah, Tom's very keen on that, and I think probably we should. That I mean, logically with the others, it should be just called perif, but the AP perif name has actually become reasonably well known. Probably AP perif.
I think perif is better because you have plain, copter, and blimp. So I think we should be consistent with naming. So perif, I like
perif. I think perif, the binaries can be called, AP perif like RDCopter. Binaries are RDCopter.
Yeah.
We still have RDCopter, RDplane, RDrover. It's just that the directories are rover, plane, copter.
Yeah. I do agree about moving it out of tools. No, it was back when it was one CPP file and 200 lines when it was in tools, and it sort of made sense. But it's grown up a bit since then.
Yeah, I had a bit of a rethink, a quick rethink during the last presentation from Matt, where it was kind of, oh boy, ID thrust down. But thankfully, it's just a script at the moment.
Yeah. Now we don't have Michael Dubois here, so can I propose rewriting the code generator, the compiler for the Lua generator in Python out of C?
What shortcomings do you see in the existing implementation? That
it's just about unreadable. It's just
so hard to hack on. Yep.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It's working quite well now, though.
Yeah, it works,
fixing
but
them.
The string handling in C leaves something to be desired.
I think
it's getting quite clever.
And speaking of Peter Hall here, I don't see you much up on the Kanban.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to do some stuff last year, and then I did completely different stuff. So
I was wondering if that might be it, because I know you got your hands all over the code.
Yeah.
We could add
you may not know what you're going to do.
Submit thesis item in here, Peter, if you like.
It'd have to be its own project, I think.
Question is, who gets assigned to that one?
There was a lot of self-restraint there, Peter. I completely understand.
Well, you all need to stop doing such interesting things, and then I can concentrate on my thesis.
Pete, you could just bite back at Tridge and ask him what his thesis started out as and what he submitted.
Yeah, it did meander a little bit, quite extremely. I frustrated several supervisors. Right, this is actually looking pretty good. Now there's a whole bunch of thing in search results here. Are there others that are pending here? New activity.
So am I thinking right that these cards are kind of just very minimalistic thingies? Like they're not an issue, so they can't have an owner or anything like that. Whereas I can see these other thingies here.
They should have an owner. Every item should have an owner.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at the RDCopter renamed to just Copter. It says added by Armachinine, but nothing more.
Yep, you're right.
Oh, I know. Under plane, what I think I've got to add, Henry would want me to add, improve tuning.
You can convert it for you can convert a card for an issue, and you can use an issue as a card.
How does
I was going to go through it rather than confuse people
now. Convert to issue. There it is. Right. Good.
Who should be the board master?
I'm starting to think, Paul, about the auto tuning technique that we've found has been working quite well for the fixed wing. Whether we could apply it to the tail sitters.
I think. I mean, there's
at least the feed forward detection.
The feed forward detection probably, I need to have talked about that because that your axis has got a few wrinkles to it with feed forward. And well, I think we probably want to have an offline conversation about that because I found it required a slightly different tuning technique than the other axes.
Yeah, and don't forget that tail setters are running on copter PIDs, basically. It's even the flight controllers are under copter. The flight surfaces are under copter. So it's not really plain at that point.
Now, I should put in the link to your text PR, Paul. Let me see.
Oh, the acceleration vector,
Yeah, that one. And the other one is all the new Barrow stuff that we've done for that glider project. So that's the experiment in tighter integration of horizontal vertical tracking, that one. So it's not just text, I know, it's much
I know, it was one
of
those things where I thought about doing it in individual parts and then realized I couldn't really show a benefit until I did everything. And it was, yes, it started out as a small Saturday afternoon job, and it got out of control. Yeah.
Yeah, so this new Barrow system for high altitude, this is for flying at like 80, 100,000 feet, and it's actually already implemented. We just need to PR it and get it through. So that's quite worthwhile.
Now, we did get some of the other text changes through.
There's a few more from that glider project that are outside of that
I was
PR.
thinking about some of those, which were...
Yeah, and...
We found a couple of small bugs too.
Yes, I think you should probably have a chat to Samuel at some time about the gliders, because it sounds like he's doing some work in there with integrating some of the data products from Tex with his glider work, and the bug fixes that you've found for gliders in Tex could be quite relevant to what he's doing.
Yeah. Because
Hi Andrew, I'm actually on the call.
Hi Samuel.
Hi. That would actually be really interesting. Because there's a few, as you said, there's a few Tex kind of couplings that we're introducing. But also actually for our project, we have a bunch of Tex tweaks and enhancements for our application. It'll be interesting to see if they are general enough to make it back into upstream.
Yeah,
I can send you a link to the branch. The branch we've done all this stuff on is public. It's just not PR'd yet. And it includes some stuff for high altitude flight that might be relevant to what you guys are doing too.
And the other thing, Samuel, is that the PR where I've got the tighter integration of that horizontal and vertical tracking loops, that actually also rewrites the pitch control loop for Tex, rearranges the block diagram to move the integrated down the cascade one level, so that we don't have we don't end up with problems with overshoots, when the same problems with overshoots when capturing height changes. So there's been a bit of a change there, but I'm not quite sure how that's going to work with a glider. So
interesting. Yeah, so we're actually in the process at KH Aerospace of kind of switching from our flight branch, which is based on master from I think almost 2 years ago now, to the more to basically 4.1. So as part of that, we need to evaluate the impact of any changes like that. So yeah, definitely good to work together on figuring that out.
yeah, your GMT time zone.
Yeah, GMT +1 right now, but yeah, UK time.
And you might have to send Paul and me one of your aircraft each. I think it's going to be absolutely essential.
Let's try. Because you don't have enough.
I'll do my best.
Do you?
Yeah, I'll see if I can get that one through. I'll try my best.
Let's put it on petty cash.
But the required number of airplanes is N+1, and we all know what N is.
Indeed. Yes, I was taught early on, and he who dies with the most toys wins.
Speaking of height control with the Tex, I'm not sure if this is already a work in progress or if there's a PR for this already, but it'd be interesting to see if there's a way of having the Tex with more of a look ahead capability in terms of knowing upcoming changes in demanded climb rate or demanded altitude. Because I think right now the text only knows basically the current demanded height, which obviously it can't directly control. It doesn't know, I believe, the current target climb rate and how that's going to change.
I actually do have in that branch, in that PR 15441, there are some changes there to add the capability on the interface to go to a tight tracking mode where you also demand the vertical rate as well. So to try and do that, rather than having text sort of differentiating to get the rate and then filtering it, and you end up with quite a bit of lag. So
right, because that's one, yeah, because landing is one place where that that causes some problems because as you say, there's lag involved. And I think in the landing code, the text actually tries to project ahead to cancel out that lag. But that then leads to some strange effects, especially when the flare point occurs, because again, the text doesn't really have an idea of how the demanded height is going to change after that event. So there's some kind of discontinuities, which again, we've kind of dealt with in slightly ad hoc ways. And having that look ahead capability might be a nice way to deal with that in a more unified fashion.
I mean, unfortunately, it's only looking ahead in the sense that it's taken the current velocity, the climb rate and the height. It's not smart enough to know that you're about to level out.
Right, yeah, and that would kind of require all the sort of mission height handling to be sort of refactored so that you could actually ask, what is the demanded height going to be in 5 or 10 or 15 seconds?
Well, you could almost have the leash, the concept of that leash that pulls it around, but we do it horizontally with the L1. You could do the same thing vertically in theory.
Yeah, and previous projects I've worked on have actually had both of those concepts combined so that there is only one leash and it's a 3-dimensional leash.
Yeah, that's
so it combines those two concepts.
Yeah, that's what I've done with projects that have needed to do very, very tight trajectory tracking. So, and it works extremely well. If you combine that along with an acceleration, a G-demand autopilot, you can get exceptional tracking, sort of half-meter RMS errors relative to your estimate.
Yeah, it'd be great to get to that point. And I think, it's not a fundamental shift. It's just sort of, refactoring a lot of the logic we have currently to be able to pull out a bit more information and a bit more kind of foresight into some of those controllers.
But Trigen sit as the people for the remote ID, although
it's going to be broader than that. Jeff's a major part of this.
Yes, Jeff.
And James, and it's going to be quite a few people working on it.
I mean, I got asked about it.
I'll definitely be involved, but it's it's worth having because it's a fairly large lump of work to produce something that's really usable.
I think there will be two components. I think the hardware and the software. From the software perspective, yeah.
I was just thinking I'm working on the software, but I've got some of the hardware already. Jeff's already pointed me at some of the right hardware to work with. So I've got some of that.
Yeah, we have been working on some hardware as well. I think we have some prototype in the pipeline as well from the CubePilot side. So yeah.
I'm sure we'll end up with multiple solutions. It's the sort of thing where there won't be a one size fits all, because we'll have everything from the very, very low end hobbyist up to people flying multi-$100,000 vehicles.
That's from a hardware perspective, that's true, and also because of the way.
But from the software perspective, I think it's most likely going to be a Perif implementation.
So what
kind of implementation? Depending on the license, I guess.
There's some things still to be worked out there, Sid, in that there is no approved means of compliance from the FAA on what they're doing yet. So there's a whole bunch of variables there. But basically from the RGPilot side, I think if we focus on the API to start with, then just kind of nudge it around the edges depending on the specifics of how that means of compliance falls out, noting that some of us kind of have some visibility as to how that's progressing. I think we can be very, very general in the ArduPilot side, and the device itself will be what has to go through that means of compliance, not ArduPilot, in the most part.
The list is looking pretty good now. Looks quite complete.
Although someone deleted the simulations column.
I did. Sorry. It was empty, so I just figured, well.
Yeah, I was just about to move because Tridge actually had some simulation stuff there that I was about to pull across. I was kind of like, where'd the column go?
Sorry. I'll put it back. Actually, I didn't actually delete it. I renamed it. Stole it for another purpose. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Back here.
I'm hoping someone's going to write Hittle in there.
Oh yes, please do put Hittle in there. It's really quite easy now. It's probably like a weekend to get Hittle working quite nicely again. Well, maybe a bit longer. There's a bit of stuff breaking out the simulators. We basically need a firmware build target for the Hittle executable that just is basically sim aircraft with a shim around it. And I've definitely discussed that a bit with Peter. And so that's the main thing, so to break that out so it can run standalone without having a vehicle inside it.
I wonder if we should maybe put the productionization or integration of the ANU vision system on here somewhere.
Yep.
Should I put that under EKF or Copter? I'm not sure. Maybe EKF more than anything else. It's almost not a software development job. It's more of a documentation job. But any opinions?
Well, there probably will be some development needed. There's sort of two parts to it. One is integration of their VIO system, but there's also their EQF, which is, they've got some commonalities in terms of the maths. And one of them would be a completely new, state estimation type, a new EKF type in ArduPilot. And the other would be just the VIO testing and documentation and that sort of thing.
So with the EQF, that would be an EKF that can consume vision.
So EQF is like a new linearization, I guess you call it, Paul, of an EKF, a new way of approaching a state estimation. And the elements of that are being used in their visual odometry system as well. So there's some overlap, but from our point of view, it's sort of two separate systems.
Yes, that's right. Yes. I mean, the first step with supporting them is ensuring that we can get data. I mean, their first requirement is data that's with a consistent timestamp. So, and the next requirement is to make sure that when we get the data back from them, incorporate back into our EKF, that we've got enough buffer length to handle it, and that also that the timestamps are correct. The rest of it, it just sounds, it's no different to another external nav system.
Yeah. Where should we put it? Should we put it into the EKF, or should we make a new other column, or docs wiki?
I think EKF should be renamed as maybe nav system or something like that.
EKF and
Charles.
Okay. All right. EKF and what? Estimation?
Estimation system, sensor process.
Has anyone asked about raising the loop rate?
Nobody yet.
Anyway.
So yeah, last time I investigated that, the main bottleneck on that was moving Mavlink processing to its own thread. And so that's something that Peter and I actually had a PR to do that like 18 months, 2 years ago. There's a few difficulties with it, but if we get that done, then the existing infrastructure for higher loop rates will be a lot easier. I don't think we should raise the default loop rate for any of the vehicles, but to be able to more easily support high loop rates with the breakout of the rate loop. So there's sort of two parts. There's the breakout of the rate loop, and there's the Mavlink separation.
Yeah, well, I think that would be awesome to be able to do those on a separate thread. I've seen some of the effects we get with the current situation. Yeah. I'm just wondering if we'll be playing whack-a-mole where we then discover that, oh, SRTL has to move. Oh, that's already on its own thread. But, you know, we'll find something else, which is, you know, stuff in the main loop every now and then.
Yes. And you're absolutely right. It was surprisingly easy to do that little prototype PR that moved over its own thread, but dealing with all of the little subtleties could take quite a bit of time. So I wouldn't place it as a high priority right now for me. But yeah, I know that some people would really like to be able to, you know, regularly run, say, 4 kilohertz loop rates.
Something we need to make sure we get done here, I think, is that build server. Now, there is a GSOC project for it, but we have to make sure that goes through to completion.
Yeah, so
we want,
I'm
like,
pretty confident that will go well. Particularly now, GSOC is actually, we originally thought it might be just 1 month. It's actually like 2.5 months of development, which is much more reasonable time period. And so I'm planning on working closely with the student on that project, and Andy's going to be involved a fair bit as well. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that will happen. But there'll be a whole bunch of stuff within our structure, like our parameter markup, to make more features optional and to add the markup into our code so that this tool knows about the optional feature. And that's not the core tool. That's on all the rest of the team to sort of mark things up as this is an optional feature. Like, for example, I've got to do some work to make quad plane optional in plane. And there's a bunch of restructuring in plane needed to make that possible. And then the markup in the code to say, this is how you turn it on, this is how you turn it off. Because if I just add that one, that will immediately get the 1 meg boards with a whole lot of other features if they're not VTOL, because they'll gain a lot of space when you cut out quad plane.
And if you've got a VTOL, you really should have a decent board in there.
Yeah, some people do run the really low end boards with VTOL, but not as many. And they'll just have to cut something else out. I mean, something has to make room, but it gives a lot more flexibility.
Is this something that should be done ahead of time before the GSOC
Not
project?
necessarily. The GSOC project only needs 2 or 3 things that are selectable, right? As long as it's a list and as long as it's parsing it as like a list of JSON things, then the existing ones that are already selectable is plenty for the project. So I don't think we need to complicate matters.
So which selectable ones are you thinking of? The
HAL minimize features is an obvious one, but then the turning on and off, like NMEA, turning on and off EK2, EK3 is a fairly obvious one. Turning on and off optimization, like O2.
But we want to be pulling these out of metadata rather than
exactly. We should be. The initial plan that I've discussed with the student who's applied is that we will manually create that metadata for the first time, right? Manually create that JSON file so that it doesn't block the project. And then it's a separate project which the student may well end up doing, right? But it's basically to take a bit like our parameter parser and generate the metadata. But that's a completely separable project, and so it shouldn't block the main project.
And we should look forward to the day where we can kill HAL minimize features in its entirety.
Well, I've just had a look at that today. There's actually very few boards that still have it. And with all the other restructuring we've done, I suspect we may be able to turn it off on those remaining boards. Like I just checked FMU V2, for example, and it's one of the few boards with minimized features turned on, and it's got 42K free. On plane, it's got 70K free on copter with all of the restructuring we've been doing, particularly dropping EK2 out of the build there. Yeah, so it might be a fairly small thing to kill it.
It'd be good.
It's kind of ironic though, isn't it? Because we've got a different HAL minimized features by proxy now.
Yeah,
with all of the other features that we're
using the 1 meg size instead. But that's where the custom build server is going to be so good. To be one difficult part of it that we haven't discussed with the potential student is estimating the flash cost of each feature, because it'd be nice if the tool actually said, this is how much you're going to save approximately by picking this selection. And we don't have the metadata to feed that.
No, we can generate that.
We can. It'll be slow. We'll have to sort of, have this background task that slowly churns through and builds that metadata.
It'd be like a once a day kind of thing.
Yeah, or even just a very low priority task on the build server to slowly churn through stuff on boards and turn it on and off and build up like a big table of what's doable and the cost of the feature.
Something like Bloaty can spit that data out for you, though, surely.
Oh, it's all doable. It's a bunch of compilation to do, and somebody has to write the script and the care and feeding of that to make sure it's robust. So I didn't think that should be part of the core GSOC project, because otherwise the GSOC project just gets, it's got too much to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's separable.
Started on some of the infrastructure to do that. I think Pierre's already working on.
Yeah, we've got that stuff in CI already, which is one of the pieces of what we need.
Can I just go back to the raising the loop rate question?
Yep.
I as well as Mavlink, I thought one of the issues there was also separating out the EKF processing in the fast loop.
Well, it depends which way you go. I mean,
the output observer can run very quickly. We could split that out. If you really wanted to push the timings and get a bit of latency out, you could run the output observer on a different scheduler to the rest of the EKF.
Yeah, with a semaphore to make sure for the common data structures.
Is that the thing that takes the time then in the fast loop, the output observer? Not that I know what that is, but
sorry, say again.
Beating it confident. Is that what takes the time then, the output observer?
Yeah. Okay, so so the EKF, because it has data coming in at different times, it buffers its data and it runs on a delayed time horizon to bring everything together at a common time, and then it's got a separate little complementary filter that then takes the states of the EKF and then propagates them forward using the IMU data by the 100, 200 milliseconds, whatever that time offset is. And that output observer can run you can run it at 1 kilohertz if you wanted to, because it's very cheap. The main EKF loop runs at 100 hertz. In theory, you could run that output observer and you could move that into a different point onto a different scheduler item.
The other approach is to not run it at all and just use the bias corrected gyro data in the rate loops.
I thought you were talking about the attitude loops. The rate loops.
That's the big question. Do you want attitude? If you want attitude, you've got to run, some sort of, like the output observer. But if you just want the rates, and if Copter can get away with just having the rates, then potentially we can run none of the EKF and at that very high rate, and just get the most recent bias corrections from the EKF, from the last time it ran,
you could
and
run that.
Use that.
So you're thinking of moving that right up to the top of the scheduler table?
No, separate thread. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. One is that the rate loop update is its own thread, right? And so it basically waits on the IMU, and when it gets, and then it runs just the rate PIDs. That would be the fastest architecture, I think, but there's some, gotchas with it. So anyway, it's something that needs a whole call itself, really.
The rule of, in terms of latency, the golden rule is that you synchronize to the primary sensor for your fastest loop, which is rate loops, which means really synchronizing, running those rate loops synchronous to your IMU.
Yeah, that's right. what we need to do then, we still need a metronome for the main thread as well.
Yeah.
And what we'd end up is like an event architecture where that rate loop thread goes and sends an event every n times. You'll have like a multiplier, and then it'll say, you know, tell the other one to run when it's idle. But we've got to make sure things like Mavlink still get through. You know, we don't end up starving things that, because situational awareness for the vehicle is quite important. Maybe not so much in racing quads where they just use the OSD, but I mean, the OSD does have to update, for example, at some reasonable rate. We can't just starve it of CPU because the rate loop wants to run at 4 kilohertz.
Yes. And by the way, I think it's also worthwhile having a look at the, well, 6 months ago, I did a audit. I went through the loop structures for quad plane and how we fall through, and was looking at that and realized that there was actually some latency to be taken out of the gyro to control surface for quad planes. Sorry, not for quad, as in when I say quad planes, I mean tail. I was talking about tail setters, and that may be one of the things that makes them a bit tricky to tune. Is I think we've got more latency on our rate feedback loop there than we should for a vehicle that can be a bit unstable.
Okay. Well, I'd love to look at that with you. There's probably I'm not at my best at the moment, sort of after 3 days of conference late at night. So I don't think this is the right time to dive into that. But another time when we were a bit fresher, I'd love to have a chat about that. And because I'm restructuring quad plane a bit at the moment for this new landing approach PR that I started rebasing at lunchtime. And now that we've got S-curves in, so restructuring of quad plane is one of the things on my, you know, front and center right now.
Guys, I've got to go. I'm being summoned. So,
no worries. I think we're just about done anyway. Actually, this has been quite good, and I think this project's format in GitHub is really quite good.
Yeah, I think, you know, we can spend a little bit of time over the next few weeks or whatever, just pulling in the relevant issues so that we can track them back into the firmware repo as well. But I think it'll it's more accessible and more visible than the GDocs. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's been good.
It's been awesome 2 days. Well done, everyone.
All right. So I might stop sharing my screen and we'll just wrap up the conference. So thank you all for 3 wonderful days. Really enjoyed it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing many of you down here in Canberra next year. So we have a booking. We've already paid for the pizza, so you've got to come. So it'll be fantastic to see a bunch of you down here. Yeah, really, you know, it'd be great to do it. I think we should probably try and have it online as well to be able to have people remotely. There'll probably be some countries still that can't fly. And, you know, or their citizens might be able to fly, but no other country will let them land, is the other possibility. Plus remote, those who just don't, you know, want to travel for whatever reason to the other side of the planet, slackers. It says me, who hasn't traveled overseas for about 6 years.
Good ecological choice not to fly as well, of course.
That's right. That's right.
Save your CO2 budget for something else.
That's right. I expect you to put some water wings on your Tesla and drive it down here, Randy. So submarine Tesla. Anyway, it's been absolutely fantastic. I think we're going to have a great year, and it's the talks have been brilliant. There's really a lot of new stuff coming through. 4.1 is just going to be absolutely fantastic. So it's been a long haul, and thank you to everyone on the dev team who's pulled together to get all the stuff ready. And so you're going to press the button pretty soon on Rover 4.1 Randy?
I've pushed it.
You
has been
pushed it.
pushed.
I didn't notice. It's terrible. Well, congratulations.
It went out this morning, just between talks.
Right.
I noticed.
For Michael O'Born's talk.
Fantastic. Congratulations. So, and copter soon. And then finally,
Maybe next week.
chasing you.
And then I'll wait for the EKF bug reports to come in.
Yep. And all the S curve bug
Absolutely.
reports, we just pipe straight to Leonard. You know, it's you're muted, Leonard, by the way.
S curves, there won't be any bug reports. It'll be good.
Of
There
course
are
not. No,
bugs.
not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Just undocumented
Oh,
features.
That's right.
Yep. Brilliant. So thank you, everyone, and look forward to talking to you in the upcoming dev calls, weekly dev calls, and see you all down here next year.
All right.
Cool, guys.
All right.
See you guys later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Catch up.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.
Nice to see you guys.
Catch you later.
Tchau, Bruno.
Tchau, tchau, Luiz.